The doctor's words hit me like a physical blow. Talia, delaying your next treatment isn't an option. The risks are too high. I stared at my phone's banking app, refreshing it again and again, as if that would somehow make the numbers change. But the trust fund balance stayed mockingly low, 740,013. Yesterday, it had been $50,000, my safety net, my lifeline, my next 3 rounds of treatment. My name is Talia, and I've spent 26 years learning that chronic illness is expensive. But I never thought I'd have to learn that lesson from my own family. Mom? My voice shook as I called her. The trust fund, Grandma's medical trust fund. It's empty. There must be some mistake. The pause on the other end lasted a beat too long. Oh, honey, we meant to tell you. We had to borrow it temporarily for Stuart's wedding. You know how these things are. The room started spinning. Borrow? Mom, that money was for my treatments. My doctor just said, don't be dramatic, sweetie. We're family. We share. Stuart needs this wedding to be perfect. Francesca's family has expectations. Besides, he promised to help with your medical bills once he gets his bonus. I gripped the phone tighter. When? The treatment can't wait that long, and that money wasn't yours to take. Talia. Her voice turned sharp, the way it always did when I didn't fall in line. Your brother is getting married. This is his moment. Stop being selfish. Selfish? The word tasted bitter. Where was sharing when I needed help with college, when I couldn't work full time because of flare ups? That was different. Stuart had such potential. And I don't? You know, that's not what I meant. But it was exactly what she meant. It always had been. I hung up and drove straight to their house, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. Dad answered the door in his reading glasses, looking startled to see me. Princess, we weren't expecting you. The trust fund, Dad, $50,000, gone. He removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. We did what we had to for Stuart. These things cost money. My treatments cost money. That's why Grandma set up the trust in the first place. Mom appeared behind him. Lower your voice, the neighbors will hear. Good, let them hear how you stole from your sick daughter to fund your golden boy's Instagram wedding. Now that's enough. Dad's voice rose. We didn't steal anything. We're your parents. We made a decision. A decision about my medical care without even telling me? Stop being dramatic, Mom snapped. Stuart needs this. Do you know how many followers Francesca has? This wedding will put our family on the map. I laughed, hollow and harsh. Right, because that's what matters. Not the fact that I might end up in the hospital, but how many likes your precious Stuart gets. You always do this, Mom said, shaking her head. Every time something good happens for your brother, you find a way to make it about you. The familiar ache in my joints was nothing compared to the pain in my chest. When has anything ever been about me? We've sacrificed everything for you. Do you know how much your treatments have cost us over the years? That's why Grandma left the trust fund, because she knew you'd always put him first. Mom's face hardened. Your grandmother didn't understand family loyalty. No, I whispered. She understood it perfectly. I turned to leave, but Mom grabbed my arm. This conversation isn't over. You need to understand. Don't touch me. I jerked away. You know what? You're right. This conversation isn't over, but it will be soon. Back in my car, I caught sight of something poking out of my oversized purse, the corner of an old leather-bound journal. Grandma's journal. I'd grabbed it this morning while looking for bank statements, but hadn't opened it yet. Something tugged at my memory. A conversation with Grandma near the end, when she'd made me promise to read everything she left behind. There are protections in place, she'd said, squeezing my hand. When you need them most, you'll find them. I pulled the journal into my lap, and a folded letter slipped from between its pages. Legal letterhead. My hands trembled as I opened it. Dear Mrs. Annika Crawford, this letter confirms the special provisions we discussed regarding the medical trust fund. My phone buzzed. A text from Stuart. Mom's upset. Stop making everything difficult. It's my wedding. I looked at the letter again, then at his text. For the first time in years, I smiled. My hands shook as I read the letter again in my apartment, hardly daring to believe what I was seeing. The legal language was dense, but one paragraph stood out like a neon sign. In the event of misuse or unauthorized withdrawal of funds from the medical trust by the designated trustees, Peyton and Thaddeus, all inheritance rights shall immediately transfer to beneficiary, Talia, including but not limited to property, investments, and liquid assets currently valued at approximately $350,000. I grabbed my phone and Googled the lawyer's name, Carmen Wong. Her office was still at the same address listed on the letterhead. 20 minutes later, I sat in a sleek downtown office, clutching Grandma's letter while Carmen reviewed it. I remember this clause clearly, she said, adjusting her glasses. Your grandmother was very specific about her concerns. Did she know? I leaned forward. That they would do this? Carmen's expression softened. She knew your parents' patterns. She wanted to protect you. Can they fight it if I pursue this? She shook her head. The language is ironclad. We made sure of that. Your parents signed acknowledgement of these terms when they became trustees. She pulled up documents on her computer. Look, their signatures, right here. My phone buzzed. Mom again. We need to discuss your attitude about the wedding. Family dinner tonight. I ignored it. What do I need to do? Carmen started typing. I'll prepare the paperwork. We'll need bank statements showing the unauthorized withdrawal, proof it was used for the wedding rather than medical expenses. She paused. Are you sure you want to do this? It will change everything. They already changed everything when they took that money. She nodded. Give me an hour to prepare the documents. But Talia? Her eyes met mine. Once we file this, there's no going back. Back home, I stood staring at the wedding invitation, mocking me from my fridge. Gold embossed letters announced Stuart and Francesca's dream wedding. Below it, a handwritten note from Mom. Wear something slimming, dear. Photos are forever. My phone rang. Stuart. What's your problem? He demanded before I could speak. Mom's crying because you're being difficult about the money. That money was for my treatment. Oh, please, you're always sick. I'm getting married. This is important. And my health isn't? Don't be dramatic. I told you I'd help once I get my bonus. Family helps family. I laughed bitterly. Really? Where was that attitude when I needed help with tuition, or when I couldn't work during my flare ups? That was different. I had potential. Say that again, Stuart. Say exactly what you mean. He sighed dramatically. Look, just come to dinner tonight. Mom wants to smooth things over. She's making your favorite. My favorite is salmon. Mom's making your favorite. Beef stroganoff. She always makes your favorite. Whatever. Just be there, and try not to ruin everything for once. I hung up and called Carmen instead. I have the papers ready, she said. But there's something else you should know. The rehearsal dinner venue? Your parents put a deposit down 3 months ago, right before they drained your trust fund. My stomach lurched. They planned this. There's more. They've already listed their house for sale. Quietly, but it's on the market. I think they knew they'd have to pay the money back eventually. So they just decided to gamble with my health in the meantime? I'm so sorry, Talia. I looked at the wedding invitation again. The rehearsal dinner was in 2 days at the Crystal Ballroom. All of Francesca's influencer friends would be there, broadcasting every moment. Carmen, how fast can we file these papers? We could have everything ready by tomorrow morning. But again, are you certain? My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Dinner at 7. Wear something nice. Stuart's bringing Francesca. I thought about all the times I'd sat quietly, swallowing my pain while they celebrated Stuart. All the times they'd dismissed my illness as inconvenient to their perfect family narrative. I'm certain, I said. But let's wait to file until the morning of the rehearsal dinner. I want to give them one last family meal. Talia, they always said timing is everything, right? Well, I'm finally learning from their example. After hanging up, I texted Mom back. I'll be there, and don't worry, I'll be wearing something perfect for the occasion. The revenge forming in my mind wasn't pretty, but then again, neither was stealing from your sick daughter to fund your golden child's wedding. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and Grandma had given me exactly the shove I needed. I smiled at the invitation one last time before ripping it off the fridge. Time to RSVP properly. They did what? Ramona slammed her coffee mug down so hard that several cafe patrons turned to stare. Tell me you're joking. I shook my head, pulling out my old journal. Look at this entry from when Stuart graduated college. I flipped to the page. May 15th. Stuart got a BMW for graduation. Mom says they'll help with my community college once they recover from the car payments. And did they? What do you think? I worked 2 jobs between flare ups to pay tuition. Ramona's eyes narrowed. Show me more. I turned more pages. Here's when I got diagnosed. Stuart had a football game that day. Guess where they were? No. Mom said they'd catch up on the medical stuff tomorrow. They didn't want to disappoint his coach. I remember that day, Ramona said quietly. I'm the one who drove you home from the hospital. And now this. I showed her the trust fund statements. $50,000 gone for his Instagram worthy wedding. To that influencer girl who keeps posting about authentic living while hawking diet tea. Francesca herself, who, by the way, has no idea they took my medical fund for her perfect day. Ramona leaned back, crossing her arms. So, what's this plan you mentioned? I pulled out Carmen's paperwork and explained the inheritance clause. Ramona's eyes grew wider with each detail. Holy shit, she whispered. Your grandmother was a genius. She knew them better than anyone. I sipped my now cold coffee. The rehearsal dinner is tomorrow night. All of Francesca's influencer friends will be there, live streaming everything. You're going to do it there? In front of everyone? They care so much about appearances? Fine, let's give them something to see. Ramona grabbed my hand. Talia, are you sure? This will nuke your entire family. What family? The one that's been treating me like an inconvenient footnote my whole life? I pulled out my phone, showing her recent texts. Mom, don't forget dinner tonight. Stuart has big news about the wedding. Try to be enthusiastic this time. Stuart, hey sis, can you not mention the trust fund thing at dinner? It's bringing down the wedding vibe. Dad, Princess, your mother's upset. You know how she gets. Just apologize so we can move forward. See? They're not even sorry. They just want me to shut up and play my role. The quiet, sickly sister who shouldn't make waves. Damn. Ramona shook her head. Show me more of these journal entries. I flipped through pages. Stuart's college graduation party versus my quiet diploma arrival in the mail. His promotion celebration versus my first remission milestone. Every family photo where I was positioned at the edge, easy to crop out. Remember this one? I pointed to an entry from last year. When I asked for help with rent during my bad flare-up. What did they say? That they were saving for Stuart's future, had to make sure he could afford a house in the right neighborhood once he proposed to Francesca. Ramona's face darkened. The same money they're now spending on his wedding instead of your treatment? Bingo. My phone buzzed again, a wedding planning group text I hadn't asked to join. Francesca. Final seating chart for tomorrow. Everyone check your tables. Mom. Oh, add Talia to table 12 in the back. Almost forgot. Stuart. Maybe by the kitchen? The lighting's better for her complexion. Ramona read over my shoulder and swore. Table 12? By the kitchen? Are you kidding me? I smiled grimly. Don't worry, I won't be sitting there long. What do you need me to do? Just be ready with your phone. Record everything. I want a record of their faces when they realize what Grandma did. And after? When it all blows up? I touched the journal's worn cover, thinking of all the pain documented inside. After? I start living without their shadow over me. I get my treatment. I stop being the family afterthought. They'll never forgive you. They never saw me anyway. I stood up, gathering my things. Besides, as they love to say, family comes first. I'm just finally putting myself first in my own family. Ramona hugged me tight. I'm proud of you. And I bet your grandmother would be too. My phone buzzed one last time. Mom. Darling, I've adjusted the seating chart. Table 11 instead. You'll be with Stuart's old college friends. Please try to keep the health talk to a minimum. It makes people uncomfortable. I showed Ramona the message. See? Always hiding me away. Well, tomorrow night I'm done being invisible. Tomorrow then, Ramona said, her eyes fierce with loyalty. We make them see you. I touched my grandmother's letter in my bag. Tomorrow we make them remember me. Hold still, Talia. Mom fussed with my bridesmaid dress. Really, if you'd just lost those 5 pounds like I suggested. We were at the final fitting, the day before the rehearsal dinner. Francesca twirled in her designer gown while her friends live streamed everything. The dress fits fine, Mom. Fine isn't good enough for Stuart's big day. She yanked the zipper harder. Everything needs to be perfect. Francesca floated over, her diamond ring catching the light. Oh my God, Talia, you look nice. We can totally brighten this up with some contouring makeup. I'll have my glam squad help. Thanks, I muttered, watching Mom beam at Francesca like she'd offered me a kidney. Speaking of help, Stuart chimed in from his phone scrolling perch. I was thinking about your medical stuff, sis. Once I get my bonus next quarter, I could probably chip in a bit. I met his eyes in the mirror. A bit of the 50,000 you borrowed? The room went silent. Francesca's perfectly shaped eyebrows drew together. What 50,000? Nothing, darling. Mom cut in smoothly. Just some family business. Talia, come help me with these alterations. She dragged me to the fitting room, hissing under her breath. Are you trying to ruin everything? Like you ruined my treatment schedule? Don't be dramatic. Stuart will help once he's settled. Family takes care of family. Is that what this is? Taking care of family? Her fingers dug into my arm. You know what? Don't come to dinner tonight. You're clearly not in the right headspace to be supportive. Fine by me. I peeled off the dress, ignoring her protests about being careful with the fabric. My phone buzzed. Carmen. Legal documents are ready. Her text read, filing first thing tomorrow. Are you sure about the timing? I looked up to see Francesca doing another twirl for her live stream. Perfect timing, I texted back. Talia, Mom called. At least come say goodbye to your brother. I walked out in my regular clothes. Stuart barely glanced up from his phone. Hey, try not to be such a downer tomorrow, okay? It's kind of my big day. Don't worry, I smiled. I've got something special planned. Back home, I opened my email to find Carmen's presentation, a simple, devastating PowerPoint that laid out every detail: the trust fund withdrawal, the timing of the wedding deposits, the inheritance clause, all of it. My phone lit up with a text from Francesca. Bridesmaid brunch tomorrow before rehearsal. Don't be late, I replied with sugary sweetness. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Can't wait to see what surprises tomorrow brings. Ramona called moments later. Everything set? Carmen's got the papers ready? You got your phone charged for recording? Girl, I got 2 backup batteries. I'm not missing a second of this. I laughed, then stopped suddenly as another text came through, from Dad this time. Princess, your mother's upset. Says you were difficult at the fitting. Remember when you were little and had stage fright at the school play? I told you then. Sometimes we have to put on a brave face for the people we love. My hands shook as I typed back. I remember, Dad. I also remember being in the hospital while you and Mom were at Stuart's football game. Guess we all have different memories. He replied instantly, That's not fair. We did our best. No, you did your best for Stuart. I got whatever was left over. We made sacrifices you don't understand. Like sacrificing my health for his wedding? No response. Ramona was still on the line. You okay? They still think they did nothing wrong. I said quietly. They really believe they're the heroes of this story. Well, tomorrow they find out they're the villains. You ready? I opened my closet, where a sleek black dress hung ready. Not the pastel bridesmaid monstrosity, something elegant, sharp, memorable, perfect for delivering life-changing news. You know what's funny? I told Ramona. They always taught us that actions have consequences. They just never thought the consequences would be for them. My phone buzzed one last time, a group text from Mom. Final rehearsal dinner schedule. Everyone please arrive by 6 p.m. sharp. Talia, dear, I've seated you with the photographer. Try to smile naturally this time. Your last family photo was a bit strained. I showed Ramona the message. She swore colorfully. Oh, I'll give them a photo to remember, I said, touching the folder of legal documents on my desk. Tomorrow they'll finally see me clearly. And the photographer will capture every moment. Perfect? I smiled. After all, as Mom always says, photos are forever. The crystal ballroom sparkled with enough opulence to fund several rounds of my treatment. Champagne towers caught the light, custom topiaries spelled out S&F, and a drone buzzed overhead, capturing every calculated moment. Talia? Mom's voice was artificially bright. You're early, and you changed your dress? Didn't want to strain the photos. I smoothed my black silk dress, simple, elegant, deadly. It's a bit severe, She frowned. And you're supposed to be in pastels like the other bridesmaids. I'm not a bridesmaid anymore, remember? Table 11 by the kitchen. Before she could respond, Francesca's voice rang out. Everyone, places for the entrance video. I watched my parents rush to position themselves perfectly for the cameras. Stuart and Francesca made their entrance, her white designer dress practically glowing under the professional lighting. Family photo time, the photographer called. Oh, Talia, Mom waved dismissively. We'll catch you in the next round. I sat at my assigned table, surrounded by Stuart's old college friends who barely acknowledged me. My phone buzzed. Ramona had arrived. In position, she texted. Camera ready. The toast began. Mom stood first, champagne glittering. Family is everything, she declared, voice thick with emotion. Everything we do for family. My stomach turned. Dad followed. We're so blessed to have both our children here tonight, he said, then added with a laugh, though one of them made this day possible. Stuart's friends snickered. One leaned over to me. Hey, you're the quiet one, right? The sick sister? I smiled tightly. Not quiet. Just waiting for my turn. More toasts followed. Stuart's college roommate. To the golden boy, always knew you'd do something amazing, Francesca's maid of honor. To the most perfect couple, living their best life. Each word felt like another brick in the wall they'd built to hide me behind. Anyone else? The MC asked. I stood up. Mom's face went pale. Talia, sit down, she hissed. This isn't the time. Actually, Mom, it's exactly the time. I walked to the microphone, aware of every camera tracking me. I'd like to share something about family. Stuart shifted uncomfortably. Francesca's live stream kept rolling. When my grandmother was dying, I began. She told me something important about family, about protection, about love. I pulled out my phone, opening Carmen's presentation. She also left me a trust fund for my medical treatments. The room went silent. Mom stood up, but Dad grabbed her arm. $50,000, I continued, set aside specifically for my health care, but 3 months ago, that money disappeared. I clicked to the next slide, bank statements, transferred to pay for this wedding. Francesca's perfect smile faltered. What trust fund? The same day they paid the deposit for this venue, I clicked again, showing the dates. My parents drained my medical fund without telling me, without asking me. Talia, stop this right now. Mom's voice shook, but Grandma was smarter than anyone knew. Another click. The inheritance clause appeared on the massive screen behind me. She put in a special provision if the trust was ever misused. Don't you dare! Dad stood up. All inheritance rights would transfer to me. Everything. The house, the investments, all of it. I smiled directly into Francesca's live stream camera. The paperwork was filed this morning. The room erupted. Francesca's influencer friends started filming frantically. Stuart's face went from red to white. You're lying, Mom said, but her voice cracked. Carmen? I called out. Would you like to confirm? Carmen stood up from her table, legal documents in hand. The transfer is complete, Talia. It's all legally yours now. You stole from me, I said, looking at my parents. You gambled with my health for his perfect wedding. So now, you lose everything. This is my rehearsal dinner, Stuart shouted. You're ruining everything. No, I said calmly. I'm just finally showing everyone the truth about our perfect family. Mom lunged for the microphone, but in her rush, she tripped over an elaborate flower arrangement. Roses scattered across the floor as she fell, her designer dress hiked up, her carefully crafted image shattered. How dare you, she sputtered from the floor, after everything we've done for you. Everything you've done? I laughed. Let's talk about everything you've done. But before I could continue, Francesca's voice cut through the chaos. You used stolen money for my wedding? She turned to Stuart. Did you know about this? His stammering response was all the answer she needed. I stepped away from the microphone, nodding to Ramona, who was capturing everything. The drone overhead kept buzzing, documenting the implosion of my family's carefully constructed facade. The truth hurts, doesn't it? I said softly. Almost as much as watching your daughter suffer while you plan the perfect party. Then I walked out, leaving chaos in my wake. Behind me, I heard Francesca's voice rising. Turn off the live stream. Turn it off now. But it was too late. The truth was already out there, recorded forever, just like Mom always wanted. Talia, please, Mom's voice echoed across the parking lot. Let us explain. I kept walking, my heels clicking against the asphalt. Behind me, the crystal ballroom's doors burst open again as more people spilled out. "You've destroyed this family," Stuart shouted. "Are you happy now?" I turned around. "Destroyed it? You mean like you destroyed my health care? It was just money." He ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair. "We would have paid it back." When, after I ended up in the hospital, after irreversible damage was done, Francesca appeared, mascara running. "My followers are going crazy. Do you know what this will do to my brand?" "Your brand?" I laughed. "That's what you're worried about? 300,000 people watched that live stream." She thrust her phone at me. Comments were flooding in. "OMG, did they really steal from their sick daughter? Rich people are trash. Karma is real, y'all." Dad pushed through the crowd. "Princess, please, we can fix this." "Fix what, Dad? The trust fund? My health? Or just the family's reputation?" "All of it." Mom grabbed my arm. "We'll sell the house. We'll get you your money back." Too late. I pulled away. Carmen already filed the paperwork. The house is mine now, along with everything else. "You can't do this to us." Stuart stepped forward. "We're your family." "Family?" I pulled out my phone. "Let me show you something about family." I played the video Ramona had compiled. Years of missed birthdays, hospital visits alone, celebrations centered around Stuart while I sat in the background. Photos of the BMW they bought him while I worked 2 jobs, screenshots of text messages dismissing my health concerns. "Stop it," Mom whispered. "Why? Isn't this the perfect family you wanted everyone to see?" Francesca's photographer was still snapping pictures. The drone hummed overhead. "Turn those cameras off." Stuart lunged for the photographer, but Ramona stepped between them. "No way," she said. "Let's document everything. Isn't that what your mom always wanted?" More guests emerged, phones recording. Francesca's influencer friends were already posting live updates. "The wedding's off," Francesca announced suddenly. I can't be associated with this." "Franny, baby, wait." Stuart chased after her, leaving me facing my parents. "What do you want?" Mom's voice was hollow. "What will it take to fix this?" "Fix this?" I stepped closer. "You want to know what would have fixed this? Being there when I got diagnosed instead of at Stuart's game, helping with my college instead of buying him a car, not stealing my medical fund for his wedding." "We did the best we could," Dad pleaded. "No, you did your best for him. I got whatever was left over." I turned to leave. "Now you get to see how that feels." "Where are you going?" Mom called out. "To schedule my treatment. You know, the one I had to delay because you emptied my trust fund?" "But the house," Dad said. "Where will we live?" "You should have thought about that before you gambled with my health." I reached my car. "I hear there are some nice rental properties near the hospital. The one I've been going to alone all these years." "Talia, please." Mom's voice cracked. "We're still your parents." I paused, hand on my car door. "You know what Grandma told me before she died? She said sometimes the kindest thing a parent can do is let their child face the consequences of their actions." I met her eyes. "Consider this me being kind." "You'll regret this," Stuart called out, having given up chasing Francesca. "You'll be alone." "I've always been alone," I replied. "You all just never noticed." Ramona appeared at my side, phone still recording. "Need a ride?" "No." I smiled. For once, I know exactly where I'm going. As we drove away, my phone exploded with notifications, messages from relatives, Francesca's followers, local news wanting comments. But only one message mattered, from Carmen. "Papers are filed. It's done. Your grandmother would be proud." In my rearview mirror, I could see my family growing smaller, Mom being consoled by her friends, Dad staring blankly at nothing, Stuart arguing with Francesca's family. The perfect image they'd worked so hard to maintain was shattered, scattered like the roses from Mom's fall. "You okay?" Ramona asked softly. "No," I answered honestly. "But I will be." My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Stuart. "You've ruined everything. I hope you're happy." I typed back, "Not happy, just finally free." Then I blocked his number, along with my parents. The time for family drama was over. I had a treatment to schedule and a new life to build, one where I finally put myself first. Behind us, the crystal ballroom's lights grew dim, and with them, the last remnants of my family's perfect facade faded into the night. The IV dripped steadily as I sat in the treatment chair, finally getting the medication I'd been forced to delay. My phone, silent for days since I'd blocked my family, suddenly lit up with Carmen's name. "The house sale is final," she said when I answered. "Your parents moved out yesterday." "Where did they go?" "A rental apartment across town. Stuart's staying with them temporarily. Francesca officially called off the wedding." I watched the medicine flowing into my veins. "Have they tried to contest the inheritance?" "They can't. The clause was ironclad, and they signed acknowledgement of it. Besides," she paused, "the social media fallout has them laying low." She wasn't kidding. Francesca's live stream had gone viral. Toxic family karma was trending, with my story becoming a cautionary tale about family betrayal. My nurse, Maria, came to check my vitals. "How are you feeling?" "Better than I have in weeks." I managed a smile. Amazing what proper medical care can do. "Your friend is here." She nodded toward the door where Ramona stood, holding coffee. "Brought you something better than hospital sludge," she said, handing me a cup. "Also, you might want to see this." She showed me her phone, a local news article about my parents listing their country club membership for sale. The comments section was brutal. Karma comes for everyone eventually. Imagine stealing from your sick kid for a wedding. Rich people, problems meet real consequences. "Stop." I pushed the phone away. I didn't do this for revenge. "No?" Ramona raised an eyebrow. "I did it because I had to. Because if I didn't stand up for myself now, they'd never stop." My phone buzzed, an email from Dad bypassing the block. "Princess, your mother's not eating. Stuart lost his job. The viral story scared his company. We're selling everything we can. Please, can we talk? We're still family." "Dad," Ramona read over my shoulder. "Are you going to respond?" "No." I deleted the email. "They're not starving. They're just not rich anymore. Welcome to how the other half lives." Maria returned with more medication. "Your numbers are looking better already. The regular treatment schedule will make a huge difference." "Thank you." I hesitated. "Actually, I have a question. That patient support group you mentioned last time, the one for people struggling to afford treatment? The Women's Health Coalition? They're always looking for donors." I pulled out my laptop, opening my banking app. The inheritance money sat there, $350,000, more money than I'd ever had access to. Can I make an anonymous donation? 3 clicks later, $50,000 was transferred to the coalition, the exact amount they'd stolen from me. "Poetic," Ramona commented. "Grandma always said money shows who you really are." I closed the laptop. They showed who they were when they took it. I'm showing who I am by giving it. My phone buzzed again. Stuart this time, from a new number. "You won. Happy?" "Mom's crying every day. Dad's selling his golf clubs. I'm sleeping on their couch. Hope you enjoy your revenge." Ramona grabbed my phone before I could respond. "Let me handle this." She typed, "Enjoy the couch." "Talia enjoyed working 2 jobs through college while you got a BMW. Karma's funny that way." Then she blocked his new number. "You didn't have to do that," I said. "Yes, I did, because you're still trying to be nice, and they don't deserve nice." The treatment machine beeped, signaling the end of today's session. As Maria removed my IV, she handed me a pamphlet. "The coalition's next meeting," she said. "They could use a speaker who understands both sides of the healthcare struggle." I took the pamphlet, thinking of all the other people out there fighting battles like mine, people whose families might not understand, or care, or help. "I'll think about it." Later that night, alone in my apartment, I opened my grandmother's journal one last time. A photo fell out, me and her in the hospital during my first diagnosis. She was holding my hand, looking at me instead of the camera. While my parents were at Stuart's game, she had been there, seeing me. My phone buzzed with a final email from Mom. "We're your parents. We loved you the best we could. One day you'll understand. And forgive us." I touched the photo of Grandma, remembering her words. "Love isn't just a feeling, dear. It's a choice we make every day in how we treat people." I typed back one last message. You're right. I do understand. You chose Stuart every single day, in every single way. Now I'm choosing myself. Goodbye, Mom. Then I deleted her email address and closed my grandmother's journal. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, and for the first time in years, I could breathe freely. Sometimes the heaviest chains are the ones we're born into. But Grandma had given me the key to break free. Now I just had to learn to walk without the weight. I never thought I'd be standing here, I said into the microphone, facing the packed room at the Women's Health Coalition meeting. But someone wise once told me that our stories have power. Ramona gave me a thumbs up from the back row. Next to her, Carmen nodded encouragingly. My grandmother left me two things when she died: a medical trust fund and the courage to use it. When my family stole that fund, they thought they were just taking money. But they were taking my health, my autonomy, my right to exist as more than an inconvenience. The room was silent, dozens of women leaning forward in their chairs. But she left me something else too, a way to fight back, not just for me, but for all of us. I clicked to the next slide, a photo of the new treatment center wing funded by the inheritance money. The Annika Crawford Memorial Wing shone in elegant letters above the entrance. Every room in this wing will provide subsidized treatment for patients who can't afford it. Because healthcare isn't a privilege, it's a right. After the speech, a young woman approached me, clutching her own medical papers. My parents said my treatments were too expensive, that I should just try being positive instead. I handed her my card. Call this number tomorrow. We'll get you started. My phone buzzed, a text from Maria, my nurse. First round of patients coming in tomorrow. You did good, kid. Outside, Ramona waited by her car. Ready for dinner. Carmen's meeting us there. 1 second. I checked my email one last time. A message from Stuart sat unopened. Found Mom crying over old photos. She finally admitted what they did to you was wrong. Dad's talking about counseling. I never saw it before, how they treated you. I'm sorry. Really sorry. If you ever want to talk. You going to answer him? Ramona asked. Not today. I put my phone away. Maybe not ever. Some bridges stay burned. At the restaurant, Carmen raised her glass. To Annika, she knew exactly what she was doing. To Grandma, I agreed, the only one who ever really saw me. Speaking of seeing things, Ramona pulled out her tablet. Look what Francesca posted. A new video. My journey to understanding privilege and family toxicity. 8 million views. At least someone learned something, Carmen mused. They all did, I said. Mom and Dad lost their status. Stuart lost his perfect life. They finally know what it feels like to struggle. And you? Ramona asked. What did you learn? The waiter brought our food, salmon, my actual favorite, not the stroganoff my mother always claimed I loved. I learned that sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you need. Sometimes you have to build your own. Speaking of building, Carmen pulled out some papers. The foundation paperwork is ready. Once you sign, the Annika Crawford Medical Fund will be official. I took the pen, thinking of all the other patients out there, fighting battles like mine. The inheritance money would fund treatments for years to come. Perfect timing, Ramona said. Maria texted. They have 3 new patients already approved for subsidized care. My phone buzzed again. Another email from Mom. Saw the new hospital wing. Your grandmother would be proud. I wish we had been. Delete. You know what Grandma told me once? I signed the foundation papers with a flourish. She said sometimes the strongest families aren't the ones we're born into, but the ones we choose to build. I looked around the table, at Ramona, who'd always had my back, at Carmen, who helped me fight, at the foundation papers that would help others fight too. To chosen family, Carmen raised her glass again. To karma, Ramona added with a wink. To Grandma, I finished, who taught me that the best revenge isn't punishment. It's living well and helping others live better too. Outside, the hospital wing's lights glowed in the distance. Tomorrow, it would open its doors to its first patients, people like me who needed help and hope. My phone lit up one last time, a message from Maria. First patient tomorrow is a young girl. Her parents chose a vacation over her treatment. Sound familiar? I typed back, tell her she's not alone anymore. Tell her she's finally somewhere she'll be seen. Then I looked at my chosen family around the table and smiled. They always said blood is thicker than water, but sometimes water is exactly what you need to wash away the past and nurture something new to grow. Ready to go? Ramona asked. Big day tomorrow. I stood up, leaving my phone and its unanswered family messages on the table. Yeah, time to help someone else become visible. Because sometimes the best way to heal isn't to fix what's broken, but to build something entirely new from the pieces.
Get out. You're not welcome in this house anymore. My mother-in-law Helen's voice echoed through the mansion's marble foyer. Her face was twisted with rage as she threw my belongings onto the perfectly manicured lawn. Behind her, my husband David stood with his arm wrapped around a woman I'd never seen before, both of them wearing matching smirks. My name is Anna, and at 32, I was watching my decade-long marriage crumble on my in-laws' front lawn. But unlike what they expected, I wasn't crying or begging. Instead, I felt an odd sense of calm as I watched Helen's performance. "You ungrateful witch." Helen continued her tirade. "How dare you accuse my David of trying to steal your money? He deserves that inheritance more than you ever did." I almost laughed at the irony. Just hours earlier, I discovered their elaborate plan to transfer my inheritance, the money my grandmother had left me, into an account they controlled. The account was conveniently registered under the name of Jessica, the woman now clutching my husband's arm. "Mom, don't waste your breath," David said, his voice dripping with contempt. "She's always been paranoid about her precious inheritance. That's why we had to be creative." Creative. That's what he called secretly meeting with lawyers to forge my signature. Creative was how he described planning to marry his mistress without divorcing me first, just to keep me from claiming my share of our marital assets. I calmly picked up my bag from the grass. "You're right, Helen. I should leave." My composed response clearly threw them off balance. They had expected tears, drama, perhaps even a scene they could use against me later. "That's it." Jessica spoke up for the first time, her young face confused. "You're just going to leave." I smiled, remembering the USB drive safely tucked in my pocket. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. 3 hours earlier, I had arrived at the mansion for our weekly family dinner. Everything seemed normal. Helen fussing over David as usual, my father-in-law George buried in his newspaper. But when I went to use Helen's computer to print some documents for work, I found something interesting. Emails between her, David, and a lawyer discussing how to transfer Anna's assets without her knowledge. The plan was elaborate. They had been gathering my personal information for months, practicing my signature, even had a notary on their payroll. The final step was to have me sign what I thought would be renovation papers for our house, but would actually be documents transferring my inheritance to Jessica. What they didn't know was that I'd suspected something was wrong for weeks. David's sudden interest in my grandmother's inheritance, his mysterious phone calls, Helen's unusual questions about my bank accounts, it all added up to something suspicious. So I'd taken precautions. Hidden cameras in our house caught David's late-night meetings with Jessica and his mother, where they planned everything in detail. My phone recorded every conversation where Helen casually asked about my financial arrangements, and most importantly, I'd already moved my inheritance into a trust that only I could access. "You think you're so clever," Helen spat as I walked toward my car. "But you're nothing without this family. Nothing." I turned back one last time. "We'll see about that, Helen. Give me 3 months. Just 3 months." David laughed. "3 months for what? To beg for forgiveness?" "No," I replied, starting my car. 3 months for you to realize exactly what you've lost." As I drove away, I could see them in my rearview mirror. Helen gesturing wildly, David holding Jessica, all of them probably congratulating themselves on getting rid of me so easily. They had no idea what was coming. I drove straight to my best friend Olivia's house. She opened the door before I could even knock, worry etched on her face. "Did you get what you needed?" I pulled out the USB drive. Everything. Every email, every forged document, every conversation about their little plan. I collapsed onto her couch, finally letting the events of the day sink in. They didn't even try to deny it, live. They were proud of their scheme. Olivia sat beside me, her lawyer instincts already kicking in. "Then they've handed us everything we need." The recordings, the emails, the witnesses, it's all admissible in court. I nodded, thinking about the next steps. I'd spent weeks preparing for this moment, securing my assets, gathering evidence, building a case that would be impossible to defend against. But watching David stand there with his mistress, seeing Helen's true colors on full display, it still hurt more than I expected. You know what the funny part is? I said, accepting the glass of wine Olivia offered. They think they've won. They actually believe I walked away because I'm weak. Olivia smiled, a fierce protective glint in her eye. Then they clearly never knew the real you. So what's the plan? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found the number I needed. First, we call Robert Harrison, the federal investigator who's been waiting for evidence of Helen's financial fraud. Then, we let the dominoes fall exactly where I've lined them up. And David, Jessica? I smiled, thinking about the paper trail I discovered linking them to Helen's broader scheme. They chose their side. Now they get to go down with the ship. As night fell, I sat in Olivia's guest room, looking through old photos on my phone. 10 years of marriage reduced to evidence in a fraud case. But as I closed the photo album and opened my email to contact Investigator Harrison, I felt stronger than I had in years. They thought they were destroying me. Instead, they had freed me to take them all down. Let them enjoy their victory for now. In 3 months, they'd learn exactly who they were dealing with. The first signs that something was wrong appeared exactly 2 weeks after I left. I was having coffee with Olivia when my phone buzzed with a text from my father-in-law, George. "Anna, we need to talk. Something's not right with the company accounts." I showed the message to Olivia, who raised an eyebrow. Right on schedule. What George had discovered was just the tip of the iceberg. For years, Helen had been using the family's real estate company to run a sophisticated fraud scheme. My evidence didn't just prove their plan to steal my inheritance, it revealed a pattern of financial manipulation that went back decades. I texted back a simple response. Ask Helen of the Riverside Properties deal. Within minutes, my phone was flooded with calls. First from George, then Helen, and finally David. I ignored them all, knowing exactly what they found. The Riverside Properties transaction was Helen's biggest mistake, and the documentation I'd gathered proved she'd embezzled nearly $2 million through fake renovation contracts. "Your mother-in-law's been busy," Investigator Harrison said during our meeting that afternoon. He spread the documents across his desk, each page revealing another layer of fraud. "And your husband was actively helping her cover it up." I nodded, watching as he added my evidence to his growing file. They got careless. When he started planning to steal my inheritance, they left their other records vulnerable. "Mrs. Collins," Harrison leaned forward, his expression serious. "This is going to get ugly. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Helen's screaming face, David's smirk, Jessica's confused expression. They made it ugly when they planned to steal everything I had. The next day, federal agents arrived at Helen's office. I wasn't there to see it, but Olivia's colleague who worked in the same building described how Helen was escorted out, still shouting that it was all a misunderstanding. David called me that evening, his voice no longer smug. "What did you do?" he demanded. "Mom's been arrested." "I didn't do anything, David. The federal investigation into Helen's fraud has been ongoing for months. I just stopped helping hide it." "You're lying. You set this up." I could hear Jessica in the background, asking what was happening. "No, David. Your mother set this up when she decided to steal from her own company. You set this up when you helped her hide it." I just stopped being complicit. The silence on his end was deafening. "Oh, and David," I added, "you might want to check those documents you signed last month. The ones about the renovation project. They've been submitted to the investigation." He hung up without another word. Over the next few weeks, the truth about Helen's schemes unraveled spectacularly. The local papers ran stories about the prominent real estate family's fall from grace. Former employees came forward with their own evidence of fraud. Even George, once he realized the extent of his wife's deception, began cooperating with investigators. Jessica disappeared first, leaving David with nothing but a text message. "This isn't what I signed up for." Apparently, the promise of my inheritance wasn't worth facing federal fraud charges. I watched it all unfold from a safe distance, focusing on rebuilding my life. Olivia helped me find a new apartment, and I threw myself into my work, letting the investigators handle the rest. Then came the call I'd been waiting for. Mrs. Collins? Investigator Harrison's voice was triumphant. We've frozen all their accounts. The evidence you provided led us to 6 other fraud schemes. They're looking at serious prison time. I sat down, feeling the weight of the past month lift from my shoulders. And David? Your husband's been charged as an accomplice. We found his fingerprints all over the fake documents. He's looking at 5 to 10 years. That evening, as I sat on my new balcony watching the sunset, my phone lit up with a message from Helen. Even under house arrest, she couldn't help trying to have the last word. You've destroyed this family, she wrote. I hope you're happy. I thought about responding, about pointing out that she had destroyed her own family with her greed and manipulation. Instead, I simply blocked her number. 2 months had passed since that day on the lawn. 2 months of watching karma deliver exactly what they deserved. But sitting there, looking at the city lights, I realized I didn't feel victorious. I felt peaceful. They had tried to take everything from me, but in doing so, they had given me something invaluable. Freedom from their toxicity and the strength to stand up for myself. As I reached for my wine glass, my phone buzzed one last time. It was George. Anna, his message read, I'm sorry. I should have seen it sooner. I looked at those words for a long time, thinking about how different things might have been if he'd stopped Helen years ago. But the past was the past. The future, however, was looking surprisingly bright. 1 month left in my promised 3 months, and already their perfect little world had crumbled. But the final piece of my plan was still to come, and for that, I needed to make just one more phone call. Hello, I said when the line connected. This is Anna Collins. I'd like to schedule a meeting about purchasing Riverside properties. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same property that had exposed Helen's fraud would now become the foundation of my new beginning. Let them think they'd won that day on the lawn. Their victory had lasted exactly 2 weeks. My victory? That would last a lifetime. The 3-month mark arrived on a crisp autumn morning. I stood outside the courthouse, adjusting my blazer as reporters gathered on the steps. Today was Helen's sentencing hearing, and the media was eager to cover the downfall of one of the city's most prominent families. Ready for this? Olivia asked, standing beside me with her briefcase. I nodded, watching David and his father arrive separately. David looked nothing like the smug man who'd stood with his mistress 3 months ago. His designer suits had been replaced by an ill-fitting department store number, his confident strut now a defeated shuffle. The hearing proceeded exactly as expected. Helen, despite her tearful pleas for leniency, was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. The judge was particularly harsh given her attempts to frame others for her crimes, including a last-ditch effort to claim I had orchestrated everything. Mrs. Harrison Collins, the judge addressed me directly after announcing the sentence. The court acknowledges your cooperation in exposing this fraud. Your inheritance will remain protected under the trust you established. I caught Helen's venomous glare from the defendant's table. This wasn't how she'd imagined things playing out when she'd thrown my belongings onto her lawn. David was sentenced next, 5 years for his role in the fraud scheme. As they led him away, he looked back at me one last time. I never thought you'd fight back, he said quietly. That was your first mistake, I replied. Outside the courthouse, George approached me. He'd aged years in just 3 months, the stress of everything etching deep lines in his face. Anna, I know it doesn't mean much now, but I truly am sorry. I studied the man who'd stood silently by while his wife and son plotted to steal everything from me. You're right, George. It doesn't mean much now, but maybe someday it will. Later that afternoon, I had one final meeting, the closing on Riverside properties. The irony wasn't lost on anyone when I submitted the winning bid for the property that had exposed Helen's fraud. I planned to transform it into affordable housing for domestic abuse survivors, a project that would erase Helen's toxic legacy and create something meaningful in its place. Quite a 3 months, Olivia remarked as we celebrated that evening. You said they'd regret it, but I don't think even you expected all this. I swirled my wine, thinking about everything that had transpired. They thought they were punishing me that day, throwing me out like I was nothing. But they gave me exactly what I needed, the push to stop protecting them from themselves. The local paper ran one final story about the case the next day. The headline read, Family Fraud Scheme Exposed. Justice Prevails. Below it was a quote from Investigator Harrison. Sometimes the people we think are victims turn out to be the strongest among us. I kept a copy of that paper, not as a reminder of their betrayal, but of my own strength. 3 months had changed everything, but the biggest change was in me. I was no longer the woman they thought they could discard. I was someone stronger, someone who fought back. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Jessica. I should have known better. I'm sorry. I deleted the message without responding. Her apology, like Helen's schemes and David's betrayal, belonged in the past. My future was ahead of me, and for the first time in years, I was actually excited to see what it held. Standing on the balcony of my new apartment that evening, I raised a glass to myself. Here's to 3 months, I whispered to the city lights, and to all the years ahead. They had tried to write my ending that day on the lawn. Instead, they had only written their own. My story? It was just beginning. The final papers arrived a week later. My divorce was official, Helen's assets were forfeit, and Riverside Properties was mine. As I signed the last document, I remembered Helen's words, "You're nothing without this family." She was right about one thing. I was nothing like their family, and that had turned out to be my greatest strength. Enjoy your new home. My mother-in-law's voice dripped with satisfaction through my hospital room phone. I changed all the locks while you were getting your precious surgery. Amanda deserves this house more than you ever did. I lay in my hospital bed, still groggy from the anesthesia. But my mind was surprisingly clear. 6 hours of spinal surgery, and this is what I wake up to. My mother-in-law giving my house to my sister-in-law. "Are you even listening?" she demanded. "We're having a little housewarming party right now. Everyone agrees Amanda should have it. After all, she's actually family." In the background, I could hear laughter, glasses clinking, and my sister-in-law Amanda's distinctive voice saying something about redecorating the master bedroom. My master bedroom. "Thank you for letting me know, Patricia," I said calmly. The lack of reaction in my voice clearly threw her off. That's all you have to say," she sputtered. "For now, enjoy the party." I hung up and closed my eyes, letting a small smile play across my lips. Patricia had no idea she just walked right into my trap. My name is Elizabeth Cooper, and at 34, I've spent the last 3 years watching my mother-in-law Patricia systematically try to push me out of the family. When my husband Michael died in a car accident 2 years ago, she became convinced that I had no right to keep the house he and I had shared. The fact that I'd helped pay for it, renovated it, and turned it into a home meant nothing to her. Family property should stay in the family, she'd say at every opportunity, staring pointedly at me. By family, she meant her precious daughter Amanda, my sister-in-law, who'd never worked a day in her life but somehow deserved everything more than I did. The worse my back problems got, a deteriorating disc condition that finally required surgery, the more Patricia circled like a vulture. She'd bring Amanda to family dinners, have her help with my housework when the pain was too bad, all while making it clear that Amanda could handle the house better. But Patricia made one crucial mistake. She thought my quiet acceptance of her behavior meant I was weak. She had no idea that every snide comment, every manipulative move, every attempt to push me out had been carefully documented, photographed, and filed away. I reached for my phone again, this time calling my lawyer David. "They did exactly what we expected," I said when he answered. "Patricia changed the locks and moved Amanda in while I was in surgery. They're having a party right now." "Perfect," David replied, and I could hear him shuffling papers. The security cameras caught everything. Every moment, I confirmed, including Patricia using the spare key she claimed she'd lost last month. 6 months ago, when my back pain had become nearly unbearable, I'd started preparing. I knew Patricia would make her move when I was at my most vulnerable, so I'd installed security cameras throughout the house, documenting every conversation, every threat, every time Patricia brought prospective buyers by when she thought I was at physical therapy. "What about the property transfer documents?" David asked. "Still locked in my office safe. The ones Patricia thinks she found in my desk drawer are very convincing copies." I smiled, remembering how I'd left them there as bait, watching through the cameras as she discovered them 2 weeks ago. The documents suggested that Michael had left the house jointly to Amanda and me, something Patricia had been desperately trying to prove since his death. She'd been so excited by her discovery that she never bothered to verify their authenticity. "Your mother-in-law is in for quite a surprise," David said. The real documents, plus the footage of her breaking in and attempting to transfer property under false pretenses. She's going to regret this little housewarming party. I heard more laughter floating through the phone from the party happening in my house. Patricia's voice carried clearly. Finally, the house is back with its rightful owner. No more putting up with that gold-digging widow. Let them celebrate, I said quietly. Everything is falling into place exactly as we planned. Rest up and focus on your recovery, David advised. I'll file everything first thing Monday morning. Do you want me to send the cease and desist letter to the house or Patricia's address? The house, I decided. I want Amanda to see it too. They should both understand exactly what they walked into. After hanging up, I adjusted my hospital bed and looked out the window at the setting sun. 2 years of watching, waiting, and documenting every move Patricia made. 2 years of playing the grieving, passive widow while she plotted to take everything Michael and I had built together. The nurse came in to check my vitals, frowning at my elevated heart rate. Try to stay calm, she advised. You need to rest after major surgery. If only she knew that my racing pulse had nothing to do with pain and everything to do with anticipation. Patricia thought she was finally getting her victory, giving my home to her daughter, while I was too weak to fight back. Little did she know, every decoration they hung, every celebration drink they poured, every moment they spent plotting in my house was being recorded, documented, and added to the already substantial case against them. I picked up my phone one last time, looking at the security camera feed from my house. Patricia and Amanda were in my living room, already measuring for new curtains. The party guests, mostly Patricia's friends, were wandering through my home like they owned it, probably all congratulating themselves on finally getting rid of me. Enjoy it while you can, I whispered, turning off the feed. You have no idea what's coming. Let them have their party. Let them think they've won. On Monday morning, they'd learn exactly why you should never underestimate a quiet woman with a good lawyer and a long memory. I closed my eyes, finally allowing myself to rest. For the first time since Michael's death, I felt at peace. Patricia's time was running out, and justice was about to be served. The following Monday morning, I was still in the hospital focusing on my recovery when David's text arrived. Papers delivered, waiting for the fireworks. Right on cue, my phone rang. Patricia's name flashed on the screen, but this time her voice wasn't smug. It was shrill with panic. What is the meaning of this? She demanded. These papers the lawyer just delivered. This has to be a joke. I adjusted my hospital bed, making myself comfortable for what promised to be an interesting conversation. Oh, you mean the cease and desist letter? The evidence of breaking and entering? The fraudulent attempt to transfer property? No, Patricia, it's not a joke. But the documents, I found them in your desk. The house belongs to Amanda too. Her voice cracked with desperation. Those documents, I couldn't help but smile. The ones you stole from my desk when you thought I was at physical therapy? Check the letterhead carefully, Patricia. They're quite convincing copies, aren't they? The silence on the other end was deafening. I could almost see her frantically examining the papers she found, finally noticing the subtle inconsistencies we planted. You set this up, she whispered. I had a lot of time to think during those sleepless nights when my back pain was at its worst. I explained calmly. Time to watch you and Amanda plotting, measuring my furniture, planning how you'd redecorate once you got rid of me. The security cameras caught everything, by the way. Every conversation, every unauthorized entry, every potential buyer you brought through my house. Security cameras? Her voice rose an octave. What security cameras? The ones I installed 6 months ago. They're very discreet. I'm not surprised you didn't notice them. The footage is quite compelling, especially the part where you used that spare key you claimed you'd lost. Through the phone, I heard Amanda in the background, her voice panicked. Mom, there's someone at the door with more papers. That would be the formal eviction notice, I said. You have 48 hours to vacate my property and return my keys. All copies of them. You can't do this, Patricia sputtered. We've already moved Amanda's things in. We had a party. Yes, I know about the party. I have that on camera too, including your lovely speech about the gold-digging widow finally being gone. The judge will find that particularly interesting. The sound of papers rustling came through the phone, followed by Amanda's increasingly hysterical voice. Mom, these papers. They're talking about criminal charges. breaking and entering, attempted property theft, harassment. David warned me not to tell you this, I continued, but the security footage has already been submitted to the police. They're very interested in the pattern of behavior it shows. Patricia's breathing had become shallow and rapid. The police? But we're family. Family? I let out a bitter laugh. Is that what you call it? Since Michael died, you've tried to drive me out of my own home, spread rumors about me in the community, and attempted to steal my property. That's not family, Patricia. That's criminal behavior. I'll tell everyone what you've done, she threatened, but her voice wavered. How you set us up, trapped us. Go ahead, I replied calmly. Show them the footage. Let them watch you breaking into my house, mocking me while I was in surgery, celebrating taking advantage of someone who was physically vulnerable. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. Amanda's voice came through again, closer this time. Mom, we need to leave. Now, these papers say if we're not out in 48 hours, they'll press criminal charges. Listen to your daughter, Patricia, I advised. Pack your things and go. The security cameras are still running, and every minute you spend in my house is more evidence against you. This isn't over, Patricia hissed, but the fear in her voice was evident. Actually, it is. Oh, and Patricia, the rose bushes you dug up yesterday to make room for Amanda's new garden. The ones Michael and I planted on our first anniversary. Add destruction of property to the list of charges. David will be in touch with the full bill for damages. I hung up, letting out a long breath. Through my hospital room window, I could see the morning sun shining brightly. Somewhere across town, Patricia and Amanda were facing the consequences of their actions, finally understanding that their perfect plan had backfired spectacularly. My phone buzzed again. A text from my next-door neighbor. Moving trucks just pulled up. Your MIL and SIL are throwing things into boxes like the house is on fire. Whatever you did, it worked. I smiled, sending back a quick thank you. Mary had been my eyes and ears throughout this ordeal, one of the few people who'd seen through Patricia's manipulations from the start. The physical therapist arrived for my morning session, finding me in better spirits than she'd seen in months. You're glowing today, she observed. Good news. Just justice being served, I replied, ready to begin my exercises. For the first time since my surgery, the future looked bright and properly aligned, just like my healing spine. 2 weeks after my surgery, I finally returned home. The house was eerily quiet. No more sounds of Amanda's constant chatter or Patricia's critical comments about my decorating choices. The moving trucks had taken everything they brought in during their brief occupation, leaving only a few scuff marks on my hardwood floors as evidence of their attempted takeover. My neighbor Mary helped me settle back in, making sure I was comfortable as I continued my recovery. You should have seen them leave, she said, bringing me a cup of tea. Patricia was crying about how ungrateful you were, but she couldn't get out fast enough once those police cars showed up to supervise the eviction. I sat in my favorite armchair, the one Amanda had planned to throw out because it didn't match her vision, and smiled. Did they take everything they brought? Every last piece, Mary confirmed. Though Patricia made quite a scene about the garden. She actually tried to dig up the new plants they put in, but the police told her to leave everything as it was. The doorbell rang and David walked in, carrying a thick folder. Good to see you up and about, he said, settling into the chair opposite me. I have updates. How bad is it for them? I asked, though I already had a good idea. They're facing multiple charges, he replied, opening the folder. Breaking and entering, attempted property theft, harassment. The security footage was damning, especially combined with the documented history of their behavior since Michael's death. The DA is particularly interested in the pattern of taking advantage of someone with a medical condition. I nodded, thinking about all the times Patricia had used my back pain against me, positioning Amanda as the healthy alternative who could properly manage the house. There's more, David continued. Several of Patricia's friends who attended that housewarming party have come forward. Apparently, she'd been bragging about her plan to take advantage of your surgery to seize the house. They're willing to testify. And Amanda, facing lesser charges, but she's not getting off easy. Her text messages to Patricia, which we recovered, show she was a willing participant in the scheme. She's already offered to pay for the damage to your garden as part of a plea deal. I looked out at the backyard where Michael's and my rose bushes had been carelessly uprooted. It was never about the garden, I said quietly. It was about respect. About honoring Michael's memory and the life we built here. David nodded understandingly. Speaking of Michael, he said, pulling out another document, the trust he set up, the one Patricia never knew about, it's now fully accessible. You can start the renovation work you two planned whenever you're ready. Tears welled up in my eyes. Michael and I had dreamed of adding a sunroom, creating a space where we could watch the sunset together. After his death, I put those plans aside, too focused on defending our home from his family's schemes. Patricia and Amanda are prohibited from contacting you, David continued. The restraining order is in effect. They can't come within 500 feet of the property. Later that evening, after David left, I sat in the backyard watching the sunset. The space where our rose bushes had been looked empty, but I already had plans for new plants, not to replace the memories, but to create new ones. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, shouldn't be rebuilt. A week later, I received an invitation to a family gathering from Patricia's sister, Jane. Her message was clear. What Patricia and Amanda did was wrong, but you're still family to some of us. I thought about it for a long time before replying. Thank you, but my family is the one I choose now. The one that respects boundaries and honors Michael's memory. As my back healed and strength returned, I began planning the sunroom addition. The contractor started work in the spring, and by summer, I had the perfect space to watch the sunset, surrounded by new rose bushes and the memories of the life Michael and I had shared. Patricia and Amanda eventually moved to another state, their reputation in our community thoroughly destroyed. Sometimes I heard snippets about them through mutual acquaintances. Patricia's bitter complaints about her ungrateful daughter-in-law. Amanda's struggles to find work with a record. But their stories weren't mine anymore. I had reclaimed not just my house, but my peace. The security cameras stayed up, not out of fear, but as a reminder that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should watch out for. On what would have been Michael's and my anniversary, I sat in our new sunroom, surrounded by blooming roses and the warm glow of sunset. You would have loved this view, I whispered to his memory, and you would have been proud of me for fighting back. The house was quiet again, but this time it was a peaceful quiet, the kind that comes with knowing you've stood your ground and won, not just the battle for your home, but for your dignity and self-respect. You're out, Sophie. I've removed your name from the credits. The documentary belongs to me now. Marcus's voice crackled through my phone as I stood in the elegant lobby of the Sundance Film Festival. I gripped my phone tighter, watching fellow filmmakers mill about, completely unaware of the bomb that had just been dropped on my career. You can't do that, I said, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. I spent 3 years of my life on this project. Half of that footage is mine. Marcus laughed, the same arrogant laugh I'd grown to hate over the past few months. Check your contract again, sweetheart. As the production company owner, I have final say over credits and ownership. You were just a contractor. I closed my eyes, remembering all the nights I'd spent in remote villages, documenting the disappearing indigenous art forms that formed the heart of our documentary. Marcus had barely left his comfortable office in New York, yet here he was, trying to erase my contributions entirely. Why? I asked, though I already knew the answer. The documentary was already generating buzz. Early reviews were glowing. Prize money and prestige were on the line. Let's be honest, Sophie. You don't have the connections to take this film where it needs to go. I do. Consider this a business decision. The line went dead. I stood there, surrounded by the excited chatter of other filmmakers, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. But beneath the shock and anger, a small smile crept onto my face. Marcus had made one critical mistake. My name is Sophie Chen, and at 32, I'd spent my entire adult life behind a camera, documenting stories that others overlooked. This documentary about vanishing indigenous art forms had been my passion project, one I pitched to Marcus's production company 3 years ago. He'd seen the potential for awards and funded it, but the heart and soul of the project, that was all me. What Marcus didn't know was that I still had all the original footage. Every interview, every sacred ceremony we'd been allowed to film, every raw, unedited moment was safely stored in multiple locations. including footage that would absolutely destroy his reputation if it ever got out. I made my way to my hotel room, my mind racing with possibilities. The festival screening was in 3 days. Marcus would be premiering his version of our documentary, likely edited to minimize my visible presence and contributions. But he had no idea what I had planned. Sitting at the desk in my hotel room, I opened my laptop and pulled up a folder labeled Insurance. Inside were clips I kept separate from the main documentary footage. There was Marcus, drunk at a sacred ceremony, making inappropriate comments about the tribal elders. Marcus demanding that we stage scenes for more dramatic effect, even when it meant misrepresenting cultural practices. And most damaging of all, Marcus admitting on camera that he had no real interest in preserving indigenous art. He just wanted something exotic to make his name in the documentary world. I kept these clips not out of malice, but because something in my gut had told me to be careful. After 15 years in documentary filmmaking, I learned to trust those instincts. My phone buzzed with a text from Amar, my sound engineer and longtime friend. Just heard what Marcus did. That snake. What's the plan? I smiled, remembering how Amar had been there through every step of filming, witnessing Marcus's gradual transformation from enthusiastic producer to controlling egomaniac. Remember that backup drive we made? I texted back. Time to use it. The one with all his beautiful moments, Amar replied. Oh, this is going to be good. I spent the next hour making calls to contacts I'd made during filming, the indigenous artists, community leaders, and local guides who had shared their stories with us. Many had become friends, trusting me with ceremonies and traditions rarely shown to outsiders. They were as much a part of this film as I was, and they deserved to know what was happening. To my surprise, they weren't just supportive. They were ready to help. We trusted you, Sophie, not him, said Maria, an elderly weaver we'd filmed in Peru. Our stories are sacred. They shouldn't be used for one man's glory. By midnight, I had a plan forming. Marcus thought he could erase me from the project, but he'd forgotten something crucial. In documentary filmmaking, authenticity is everything. And I had proof that his version of the film was anything but authentic. I was about to show Marcus exactly why you don't betray someone who carries a camera everywhere. As I lay in bed that night, I thought about the moment 3 years ago when I first pitched this project to Marcus. He'd seemed so different then, passionate, supportive, eager to help tell these important stories. Or maybe I'd just seen what I wanted to see. Either way, in 3 days he would learn that some stories can't be controlled or contained. They belong to the people who lived them, who shared them, who captured them through a lens with respect and care. And I was going to make sure those stories were told the right way, no matter what it cost me. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Marcus. I expect you to handle this professionally. Don't make a scene at the festival. I smiled at the screen, thinking of the footage safely backed up in 3 different locations. Don't worry, I typed back. I'll let the film speak for itself. Tomorrow would be interesting. Very interesting indeed. The next morning, I met Amar in a small cafe near the festival venue. He arrived with his laptop and a determined look in his eyes. I've edited together a 10-minute compilation of Marcus's finest moments, he said, sliding into the booth. Want to see? I nodded, and he turned the laptop toward me. The footage was devastating. There was Marcus ordering local artists to speed up their traditional crafting processes for better television. Marcus mocking sacred ceremonies when he thought the cameras were off. Marcus bragging about how he would fix it in post to make the story more marketable. This is perfect, I said, closing the laptop. But we need to be strategic about how we use it. Just then, my phone lit up with notifications. Marcus had just posted on social media, promoting the documentary's premiere. The post included beautiful stills from my footage, with a long self-congratulatory caption about his vision and 3 years of dedication to showcasing indigenous cultures. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating. He's using your shots, Amar growled, looking at his own phone. The ones you took while he was sitting in his hotel room complaining about the heat. I took a sip of my coffee, letting the warm liquid calm my nerves. Let him. He's just making this easier for us. We spent the next few hours preparing our counter move. I reached out to several journalists who covered the independent film scene, particularly those known for their integrity and interest in ethical filmmaking. I have a story about the real making of vanishing arts, I wrote, including footage that never made it to the final cut. By afternoon, 3 major industry publications had expressed interest. But the response that really caught my attention came from Diana Torres, a respected documentary filmmaker who also sat on the festival's ethics committee. "This is serious," she wrote after I sent her some sample clips. "The festival needs to know about this before the premiere. Can you meet today?" I met Diana at her hotel suite, where she watched the footage with growing concern. "This isn't just about credit theft," she said finally. "This is about the exploitation of indigenous communities and misrepresentation of their cultures. The festival takes these issues very seriously." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with another message from Marcus. "Heard you've been talking to people at the festival. Remember your NDA. One wrong move and I'll bury you in legal fees." I showed the message to Diana, who scoffed. "NDAs don't cover ethical violations. He should know that." We spent the next 2 hours going through my documentation, agreements with the indigenous communities, original shooting schedules showing I had been on location while Marcus stayed behind, and most importantly, the unedited footage showing how those communities had trusted me, not him, with their stories. "The premiere is tomorrow night," Diana said, checking her calendar. "I'm calling an emergency meeting of the ethics committee for this evening. Will you testify?" I thought about everything I had to lose: future contracts, industry connections, my reputation if Marcus somehow spun this against me. Then I thought about Maria, the weaver in Peru, and all the others who had shared their sacred traditions with us, trusting us to tell their stories with respect. "Yes," I said, "I'll testify." The ethics committee meeting lasted 3 hours. I presented my evidence calmly and methodically, letting the footage speak for itself. Panel members watched in silence as the real Marcus was revealed through his own words and actions. As the meeting concluded, the committee chair turned to me. "We'll need to review all of this carefully, but I want you to know that your professionalism in handling this situation is noted. It would have been easy to just leak this to the press." I nodded, gathering my materials. These stories are too important for that. They deserve better than scandal headlines. Walking back to my hotel that night, I felt lighter somehow. Whatever happened next, I had stood up for what was right. My phone buzzed again. Marcus, of course. "You've made a big mistake," his message read. "No one will work with you after this. I'll make sure of it." I didn't bother responding. Instead, I texted Amar. "It's done. Now we wait." His reply came quickly. "Whatever happens, you did the right thing. Want to get a drink? Looks like we both could use one." I smiled, grateful not for the first time for friends like Amar who stood by me even when everything was falling apart. "Meet you in 10, I replied. Tomorrow would bring either vindication or professional suicide. But tonight, I would raise a glass to staying true to myself and the stories I had promised to tell. The morning of the premiere, I woke up to an email from the festival's ethics committee. My heart pounded as I opened it, reading the carefully worded message twice to make sure I understood correctly. The committee had reached a decision. The documentary would still premiere, but with a crucial caveat. It would be shown in its original form, with my full credits restored. Additionally, Marcus's production company would be placed under review for ethical violations. I barely had time to process this when my phone rang. It was Maria, the weaver from Peru. "Sophie, the whole village is watching the live stream of the festival tonight. We're proud of you for standing up for our stories." Her words brought tears to my eyes. This was what mattered, not the awards, not the recognition, but the trust these communities had placed in me. The hours before the premiere passed in a blur. I chose my outfit carefully, a hand-woven shawl Maria had gifted me, paired with a simple black dress. As I entered the theater, I could feel the tension in the air. Industry insiders were whispering, having clearly heard rumors about the ethics committee's decision. Marcus was there, standing in the lobby with a group of executives. When he saw me, his face contorted with rage. He started walking toward me, but Diana from the ethics committee smoothly intercepted him. "I wouldn't," I heard her say quietly. "You're already on thin ice." The lights dimmed and the documentary began. Watching it on the big screen, I felt a surge of pride. Every frame captured the beauty and dignity of the indigenous artists we'd filmed. Their stories shone through exactly as they should. When the credits rolled, my name was there, directed by Sophie Chen and Marcus Reynolds. The audience erupted in applause, but it wasn't over yet. The festival director stepped onto the stage. "We have a special announcement," she began. "This film has been selected for our special jury prize for cultural documentation. However, in light of recent developments, the award will be presented solely to Sophie Chen, in recognition of her commitment to ethical filmmaking and cultural preservation." The applause grew louder. I made my way to the stage, feeling slightly dizzy. As I accepted the award, I saw Marcus storming out of the theater, his face red with fury. "I'd like to dedicate this award to the incredible artists who shared their stories with us," I said into the microphone. "Their trust and friendship taught me that true documentary filmmaking isn't about glory or awards. It's about honoring the truth of people's lives." After the ceremony, I was surrounded by well-wishers and industry contacts. Several offered me directing opportunities for new projects. But the most meaningful moment came when I checked my phone and found a flood of messages from the communities we'd filmed, celebrating the victory. Later that night, at the festival's closing party, Amar found me on the terrace. "Have you heard?" he asked, grinning. "Marcus's company is facing a full investigation. Several other filmmakers have come forward with similar stories about him taking credit for their work." I nodded, sipping my champagne. "It's not about revenge, you know. It's about doing right by the stories we tell." Speaking of stories, Amar said, "I heard National Geographic is interested in your next project. Something about traditional music preservation." I smiled, thinking of all the possibilities ahead. "Yes, but this time I'm doing it my way. No compromises." The next morning, as I packed for my flight home, I received one final email from the festival, an invitation to join their documentary ethics advisory board. They wanted my help in developing guidelines to protect both filmmakers and the communities they document. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "You've ruined me. I hope you're happy." I didn't bother responding. Instead, I opened my laptop and began writing a treatment for my next documentary. This time, my name would be there from the start, along with a promise to all the people who would trust me with their stories. Integrity first, always. 3 years of work had culminated in this moment, but it wasn't the award that made me proud. It was knowing that somewhere in Peru, Maria and her village were watching their stories being told with the respect they deserved. Sometimes, standing up for what's right means risking everything. But as I'd learned, the truth has a way of coming out, especially when you've got it all on camera. The festival was ending, but my journey was just beginning. And this time, I would be the one holding the camera, telling the stories that needed to be told my way. My hand trembled as I held the phone, listening to my sister's smug voice through the speaker. "Thanks for the brilliant idea, sis. I've already got investors lined up. You should be proud. Your invention is finally going somewhere." My name is Olivia Chen, and at 32, I had just discovered my sister Amanda had stolen my life's work. A revolutionary water filtration system I'd spent 3 years developing in my garage. The worst part? She'd found my prototype and research notes while helping me move apartments last month. "You can't do this, Amanda," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "That filtration system is my work. Every design, every test, every failure and success. It's all documented in my research journals." She laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. "Oh please, sketches in a notebook don't mean anything. I've already got the provisional patent application ready to file. Face it, you were never going to do anything with it anyway. You're too afraid to take risks. At least I have the courage to make it happen." I gripped my desk, memories flooding back of all the times Amanda had taken credit for my achievements. In high school, she claimed my science project as her own, winning first place while I stayed silent. In college, she borrowed my research paper for inspiration and somehow ended up submitting an almost identical version to her professor. Every time, our parents brushed it off. "Sisters share everything," or "Don't be so selfish, Olivia." But not this time. This wasn't just another school project. This was my future. "I've got meetings with investors all week," Amanda continued, her voice drooping with fake sympathy. "Don't worry, I'll make sure the family name shines bright. You can go back to your safe little research job and..." I hung up, my hands still shaking but now with determination rather than anger. Walking to my home office, I opened my safe and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Inside was something Amanda didn't know existed, My official patent application, filed 6 months ago when I first caught her snooping around my prototype. I learned from experience that my sister couldn't be trusted. So this time, I've been prepared. Every test result, every design iteration, every piece of documentation had been properly notarized and filed. I even kept video logs of my development process, all time-stamped and backed up securely. My phone buzzed again. Amanda, no doubt calling to continue gloating. Instead of answering, I emailed my patent attorney. It's happening exactly as we predicted. Time to proceed with phase 2. I smiled, thinking of the shocked look that would soon replace Amanda's smug expression. She thought she was so clever, but she just walked right into a trap 3 years in the making. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about being 10 steps ahead. The next week unfolded exactly as I'd anticipated. Amanda paraded around town, meeting with potential investors, making grandiose promises about her revolutionary water filtration system. Each time she posted on social media about her breakthrough innovation, I documented it, adding to the steadily growing file my lawyer was building. My parents called, of course. Olivia, why can't you be supportive of your sister? My mother pleaded. She's finally found her passion. You know how much she's struggled to find her path. I sat in my home office, staring at the wall of technical drawings and certification documents I'd accumulated over 3 years of work. Mom, that's my invention. Every single aspect of it. Amanda stole my research, my prototype, everything. Don't be ridiculous, she scoffed. Amanda showed us all her work. She has diagrams, test results, everything. Why would she lie about something like this? I closed my eyes, remembering every time they dismissed my complaints about Amanda's behavior. Every time they told me to be the bigger person while she took credit for my achievements. You'll see soon enough, I said quietly, ending the call. 3 days later, Amanda hosted a big presentation for potential investors at the city's most expensive hotel. She'd invited the entire family, local media, even my old professors from engineering school. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd gathered all the witnesses I needed in one place. I arrived early, taking a seat in the back row. Amanda spotted me and smirked, probably assuming I was there to watch helplessly as she claimed my work as her own. She had no idea she was about to walk into a carefully laid trap. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, standing proudly next to my prototype. I'm excited to present a breakthrough in water filtration technology. This system, which I've developed over the past year, represents a complete revolution in how we think about water purification. I watched as she clicked through slides that were clearly copied from my research documents, explaining concepts she barely understood. The investors nodded appreciatively, taking notes. My parents beamed with pride from the front row. Then Amanda reached the technical specifications, the part I've been waiting for. As she confidently rattled off numbers and processes, I pressed send on an email I prepared earlier. Exactly 30 seconds later, the hotel's AV system experienced an unexpected technical difficulty. The screen behind Amanda suddenly switched to a different presentation. My original pitch deck from 2 years ago, complete with dated timestamps and my signature on every slide. Amanda faltered, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. There seems to be some technical issue. That's when my patent attorney stood up from the middle row. Actually, Ms. Chen, there's no technical issue. I'm Richard Maxwell, representing the patent holder of this technology, your sister, Olivia Chen. The room went silent. Amanda's face drained of color as Mr. Maxwell continued. We have extensive documentation proving Ms. Olivia Chen's ownership of this intellectual property, including a patent application filed 6 months ago. Additionally, we have evidence of your unauthorized access to and attempted theft of this technology. He gestured to 2 people in suits who had been quietly filming the entire presentation. Representatives from the patent office are here as witnesses. Every claim you've made today about inventing this technology constitutes patent infringement and intellectual property theft. Amanda grabbed the microphone, her voice shrill. This is ridiculous. I developed this system. I have proof. You mean these? I finally spoke up, walking to the front of the room with a stack of papers. Your proof is actually copies of my research journals, the ones you photographed while helping me move. Every page is dated, notarized, and backed up with video documentation of my development process. Would you like me to play some of that footage for your investors? The room erupted in murmurs. Investors began gathering their things, shooting disapproving looks at Amanda. My parents sat frozen, their earlier pride replaced by shocked disbelief. "I can explain," Amanda stammered, but it was too late. Mr. Maxwell was already distributing cease and desist orders to the investors, along with evidence packets documenting her attempted theft. I turned to the crowd, my voice clear and professional. "I apologize for this disruption. For those still interested in the actual technology, I'll be holding a legitimate presentation next week. My team will contact you with details." As people filed out of the room, Amanda grabbed my arm. "How could you do this to me, to your own sister?" I gently removed her hand. "No, Amanda. The question is, how could you do this to me, again? Did you really think I wouldn't protect my work this time?" Our parents approached, their faces a mix of emotions. Dad looked disappointed, but for once, not in me. Mom just looked tired. "Amanda, is this true?" she asked quietly. "Did you steal your sister's work?" But Amanda was already pushing past them, running from the room in tears. She'd always been good at playing the victim when her schemes fell apart. The aftermath of Amanda's failed presentation unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony. Within days, my patent was fully approved, and several investors who had initially been approached by Amanda reached out to me directly. The irony wasn't lost on me. My sister's attempt to steal my invention had actually accelerated its path to market. But the personal fallout was harder to navigate. Amanda barricaded herself in her apartment, refusing to speak to anyone. Mom called daily, alternating between apologies and attempts to broker peace. "Can't you drop the legal proceedings?" she pleaded one evening. "She's your sister, Olivia. She's suffering." I sat in my newly rented lab space, surrounded by improved prototypes of my filtration system. "Mom, actions have consequences. Amanda needs to learn that she can't take what isn't hers." "But she's family." "Yes, she is," I interrupted, which made her betrayal even worse. "How many times have you told me to let it go when she took credit for my work? How often did you dismiss my feelings because that's just how Amanda is?" The silence on the other end was telling. Dad, surprisingly, took a different approach. He showed up at my lab one afternoon, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "I owe you an apology," he said, examining my latest prototype. "We failed you, Olivia. We enabled Amanda's behavior, made excuses for her, and taught her that she could get away with anything." Tears pricked at my eyes, but I kept working, adjusting a valve on the filtration unit. Why was it always my responsibility to keep the peace? "Because you were stronger," he admitted. "More capable. We took advantage of that, expected you to be the bigger person. It wasn't fair." He picked up one of my technical journals, flipping through pages of calculations and diagrams. "This is incredible work, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." 2 weeks after the presentation, Amanda finally reached out through her lawyer. She wanted to negotiate, to find a way to collaborate on the project. My response was simple. She could either sign a legal admission of her attempted theft and agree to cease all claims to my invention, or we could proceed with a full lawsuit. She chose the former, though not without attempting to spin the story one last time on social media. But my documentation was too thorough, my evidence too complete. Her posts only served to make her look more guilty. The real surprise came during a family dinner a month later. Amanda showed up unannounced, looking different, humbled, perhaps. "I've been talking to a therapist," she announced quietly, "about why I do these things. Take what isn't mine. Try to be you instead of finding my own path." I continued eating, not ready to offer forgiveness just yet. "I'm not asking you to trust me again," she continued. "I know I've destroyed that, but I am sorry, Olivia, truly sorry." Looking at her, I saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse, not just regret at being caught. "Thank you for saying that," I replied carefully. "But you're right, trust has to be earned." 6 months later, my water filtration system launched to significant acclaim. The technology was being implemented in several developing countries, providing clean water to communities that desperately needed it. Every interview, every press release, every demonstration carried my name. Olivia Chen, inventor and engineer. Amanda found her own path eventually, going back to school for environmental science. Sometimes she'd send me articles about water conservation or sustainable technology, not trying to take credit or compete, just sharing information she thought I'd find interesting. Mom and Dad came to every demonstration, every award ceremony. They'd finally learned to celebrate my achievements without trying to share the spotlight with Amanda. It was a different kind of family dynamic, not perfect, but more honest. One evening, as I wrapped up a successful presentation, a young engineering student approached me. "Ms. Chen," she said hesitantly, "I read about what happened with your sister. How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself?" I thought about the years of preparation, the careful documentation, the quiet determination that had led to this moment. "I learned that protecting your work isn't selfish," I told her. "Standing up for yourself isn't wrong. Sometimes the hardest people to stand up to are family, but that doesn't make it any less necessary." Later that night, I added another entry to my project journal, not technical specifications this time, but a simple truth I'd learned through all of this. Success isn't just about creating something innovative. It's about having the courage to protect it, nurture it, and ensure it reaches its full potential, even when that means standing up to the people you love. "We'll all live together. It's perfect," Marcus announced, leaning against our kitchen counter with a self-satisfied smile. "No messy divorce, no legal hassles, no property division. Just one big happy arrangement." I continued chopping carrots, my knife hitting the cutting board with precise, steady strokes. "My name is Julia, and at 35, I was listening to my husband of 8 years explain why his 24-year-old girlfriend should move into our house. Olivia's lease is up next week," he continued, mistaking my silence for acceptance. "She's young fun. She'll bring some excitement into our lives. You've been so focused on your writing lately, this could be good for all of us." The knife paused mid-chop. I looked up at Marcus, taking in his expensive new haircut. The designer watch Olivia had helped him pick out, the eager gleam in his eyes. "And where exactly will Olivia be sleeping?" I asked, my voice steady. He shifted uncomfortably. "Well, I thought, maybe we could convert your study into her room. For now. Of course, my study. The space where I'd spent the last 3 years writing my mystery novels. The ones Marcus dismissed as a hobby even though they paid for his new car." "For now?" I echoed, resuming my chopping. "You know what I mean, Jules. We'll figure it out as we go. The important thing is keeping things unofficial. No lawyers, no paperwork, just adults making adult decisions." I scraped the carrots into the pot, watching them splash into the simmering broth. "Sounds perfect," I said quietly. Marcus blinked, clearly thrown by my easy agreement. "Really? I mean, yes, of course it does. I knew you'd understand. When does she arrive?" "Tomorrow afternoon. I'll help her move her things in while you're at your writing group." I nodded, adding a pinch of thyme to the pot. Perfect timing. He stood there for a moment, waiting for the argument that wouldn't come. Finally, he pushed off from the counter. "Right, well, I should call Olivia. Let her know everything's set." After he left, I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my sister Anna. "It's happening, just like we thought." Her response was immediate. "Everything ready?" "Almost. Need one more day." I'd seen this coming for months. The late nights at the office, the new clothes, the sudden interest in social media. Marcus wasn't exactly subtle. 2 months ago, I'd found a receipt for dinner at Le Petit Bistro. Definitely not from a business meeting, since Marcus hated French food. That's when I started preparing. The next morning, I left for my writing group as usual. Marcus barely looked up from his phone as I headed out, too busy texting Olivia about their grand plans. He didn't notice the extra bag I carried or the fact that I'd worn my comfortable walking shoes instead of my usual heels. I drove to the coffee shop where my writing group met every Thursday, parked my car, and waited. At exactly 2:15 p.m., Anna pulled up beside me. "Ready?" she asked as I climbed into her car. "More than ready." We drove past our house at 3:00 p.m., just in time to see Marcus helping a young blonde carry boxes through our front door. Olivia was exactly as I'd imagined. Pretty in that obvious way that made me feel simultaneously old and relieved. "Nice shoes," Anna commented dryly, noting Olivia's impractical heels. "Those'll look great when she's taking out the trash." "If she stays long enough to learn where the trash goes," I replied. We drove to the modest apartment building across town where I signed a lease last week. Everything was already set up, furniture delivered, utilities connected, kitchen stocked. I'd been planning this move for weeks, ever since I'd overheard Marcus on the phone with Olivia, plotting their perfect solution. "You're sure about this?" Anna asked as she helped me carry in the last of my bags. I looked around the sunny apartment, at the desk positioned perfectly by the window where I could write, at the peaceful silence that wouldn't be interrupted by Marcus's complaints or Olivia's giggles. "Absolutely sure." "What time will they figure it out?" I checked my watch. "Probably around dinner time when they realize I'm not coming back to cook for them." Anna laughed. "And the best part?" I pulled out my phone, opening the email I'd received that morning. My new book deal. The advance is enough to buy Marcus out of the house, which he won't know until my lawyer contacts him tomorrow. And since he's so against legal hassles, he'll have to explain to Olivia why their perfect arrangement suddenly involves moving out. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Where are you? Thought you'd be home by now." I typed back, "Making adult decisions. You understand." Then I turned off my phone, poured 2 glasses of wine, and sat down with my sister to wait for the chaos we knew would come. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a big confrontation. It's simply letting people face the consequences of their own brilliant plans. "To new beginnings," Anna said, raising her glass. I clinked mine against hers. "And to perfect arrangements." Outside, the sun was setting on one chapter of my life, but I wasn't afraid of the dark. After all, I wrote mysteries for a living. I knew all about plotting the perfect twist ending. The first signs of Marcus's panic arrived around 7 p.m. when Anna and I were halfway through our takeout dinner. My phone, now turned back on, lit up with a barrage of messages. "Jules, where are you? This isn't funny. We need to talk about this like adults. Answer your fate only." The last one made me smile. Marcus had always hated being ignored. It threatened his carefully constructed image of control. I could picture him pacing our kitchen, no, his kitchen now, running his hands through his perfectly styled hair while Olivia perched uncertainly on one of our bar stools. Should I reply? I asked Anna, showing her the messages. She shook her head, taking another bite of pad thai. Let him stew. He wanted an arrangement without legal hassles. Well, this is about as unofficial as it gets. I had just muted my phone when someone knocked on my apartment door. Anna and I exchanged glances. We weren't expecting anyone, and only 3 people knew where I was. Through the peephole, I saw Marcus's mother, Helen, standing in the hallway. "Did you tell her where you were?" Anna whispered. "No, but she's friends with my real estate agent." I took a deep breath and opened the door. Helen burst in, her designer handbag swinging wildly. "Julia, what is going on? Marcus just called me in a complete state, saying you've disappeared. And then I hear from Susan that you've rented an apartment. This is madness." I gestured for her to sit down. "Would you like some pad thai?" "Pad? No, I don't want pad thai. I want to know why my son is at your house with some child, and you're here eating takeout like nothing's wrong." "Nothing is wrong," I said calmly. "Marcus wanted an informal living arrangement. I'm simply accommodating his wishes." Helen sank onto my new couch, her face cycling through confusion, anger, and something that looked suspiciously like admiration. "He told me about his ridiculous plan this morning. I told him he was being a fool, that no self-respecting woman would agree to such a thing." "He's right about one thing," I said, sitting across from her. "We don't need legal hassles. The house is in my name. My first book advance paid the down payment. The car he's so proud of, bought with my hobby money. Tomorrow, my lawyer will contact him with a very simple proposition. Take a fair cash settlement and leave, or we can make things very official very fast." Helen was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she opened her handbag and pulled out a small silver flask. "I knew I liked you for a reason," she said, taking a delicate sip. "Marcus gets this from his father, you know. The entitlement, the magical thinking." "When did you start planning this?" 2 months ago, when I found the dinner receipt. I knew Marcus. He'd want to have his cake and eat it too. So I started moving money, making arrangements. The new book deal was just perfect timing. And the girl, Olivia, has no idea she's about to become homeless again. I doubt Marcus mentioned that part of his perfect plan. Helen took another sip from her flask, then held it out to me. "You know, when Marcus first brought you home, I thought you were too quiet, too agreeable. I see now you were just watching, waiting, planning." I accepted the flask, feeling the smooth metal against my palm. "I write mysteries, Helen. I know all about misdirection." My phone buzzed again. Marcus had switched to email. Julia, you're being ridiculous. Come home and we can discuss this like rational people. Olivia is very upset. This isn't the way adults handle things. Helen read the email over my shoulder and snorted. Rational people? Coming from my son, who thought moving his mistress into his marital home was a sound decision. Should I respond? I asked, enjoying this newfound alliance with my mother-in-law. Oh yes, Helen said, a wicked gleam in her eye. Let's help Marcus understand exactly how adults handle things. I typed out a reply, Dear Marcus, I agree completely. Adults handle things properly. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow with a settlement offer. Since you're against legal complications, I'm sure you'll appreciate the simplicity of the arrangement. Please ensure Olivia takes her shoes off when walking on my hardwood floors. Best regards, Julia. Send it, Helen commanded, and I did. The response was immediate. My phone started ringing. Marcus's face flashed on the screen, but I declined the call. He'll go to your writing group next Thursday, Helen predicted. He'll expect to find you there, to charm you back. The group meets at a different coffee shop now, I said. They were quite understanding when I explained the situation. Anna, who had been quietly watching this exchange, finally spoke up. You know what the best part is? When Marcus tells this story later, he'll have to admit that his wife outsmarted him while he was busy playing house with his girlfriend. Helen stood up, straightening her designer suit. Julia, dear, I'll handle damage control with the family. Just keep me updated. This is the most entertainment I've had since Marcus's father tried to convince me that his secretary was just helping him organize late-night meetings. After Helen left, Anna and I sat in comfortable silence, the remains of our dinner spread before us. My phone had gone quiet. Perhaps Marcus was finally realizing that his perfect arrangement had backfired spectacularly. What do you think they're doing right now? Anna wondered. I glanced at the clock. 8:30 p.m., probably realizing that neither of them knows how to cook. The housekeeper doesn't come until Tuesday, and all the takeout menus were in my desk drawer. The desk drawer in your study. The one Olivia's boxes are probably blocking right now. We both burst out laughing, the kind of deep, cleansing laughter that makes everything feel lighter. Outside, the city lights twinkled, and I felt a profound sense of peace. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for now I was exactly where I needed to be. My phone lit up with one final message from Marcus. This isn't over. I smiled, thinking of the settlement papers being delivered to his office first thing tomorrow morning. No, I murmured, it's just beginning. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside my new apartment window instead of Marcus's daily complaints about his coffee not being strong enough. The peace was interrupted by an urgent call from my lawyer, David. The papers have been delivered, he reported. You should expect some resistance. Right on cue, my phone buzzed with a call from Marcus. I declined it, putting my phone on silent as I started my morning writing routine. The words flowed easily. Amazing how creative you can be when you're not managing someone else's emotional weather. Around noon, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Olivia standing there, looking considerably less polished than she had yesterday. I opened the door. Julia, she said, her voice shaking. We need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe. About what? Marcus, he didn't tell me the house was yours. He said everything was joint property, that it wouldn't be complicated. She twisted her hands together. Now he's saying we have to leave by the end of the month. Sounds like you and Marcus have a lot to discuss. Please, she said. I gave up my apartment. I don't have anywhere else to go. I felt a flicker of pity, quickly replaced by resolve. That's funny. Yesterday you were quite happy to take my home. Now you're worried about not having one. She flushed. It wasn't like that. Marcus said you were okay with it, that you understood modern relationships, and you believed him. A man willing to move his girlfriend into his wife's house without any legal protection. I shook my head. Think carefully about what that says about his character. The realization dawned slowly on her face. He said the same thing about my apartment lease. That we didn't need paperwork, that it was better to keep things simple. Let me guess, he suggested you give up your lease before discussing any of this with me? She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. Olivia, I said, softening slightly, take some free advice from someone who writes about manipulative characters for a living. People who avoid legal hassles are usually the ones you need legal protection from. After she left, I called Helen. "You'll never guess who just visited," I began. "Oh, I can guess," Helen replied. "Marcus called me this morning, ranting about how unreasonable you're being. I told him he's lucky you're offering a settlement at all. By the way, have you checked your email?" I opened my laptop to find an email from my publisher. The early reviews for my new book were in, and they were glowing. One line caught my eye: "A masterful tale of deception and justice served cold." If they only knew. Later that afternoon, David called again. "Marcus has agreed to the settlement," he said, though he did try to argue that his emotional investment in the house should count for something. I laughed. The same emotional investment he was willing to share with Olivia. "Exactly. He's signing the papers tomorrow. The money will be transferred directly to his account, and he has 30 days to vacate the property. And Olivia? Not mentioned in any of the legal documents, interestingly enough." That evening, Anna came over with champagne. We stood on my small balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. "You know what I love most about this?" Anna said, filling our glasses. "You gave him exactly what he wanted. No legal hassles, no messy divorce. Just a simple property transaction. Sometimes the best revenge is simply turning someone's words against them." I replied, thinking of all the times Marcus had dismissed my writing as mere stories. My phone buzzed with a text from Helen. "Dinner next Sunday. I want to hear all about your new book." I smiled, showing the message to Anna, who knew my happy ending would include my mother-in-law. "Soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law," Anna corrected. "No," I said, thinking of Helen's quiet strength during her own divorce years ago. Some family ties are chosen, not given. A week later, I drove past my old house and saw Marcus and Olivia arguing on the front lawn, moving boxes scattered around them. Through my open window, I caught snippets of their conversation, something about broken promises and trust. I didn't slow down. Their story wasn't mine anymore. Back in my apartment, I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. My cursor blinked at the top of a fresh page as I typed. Chapter 1. Sometimes the perfect crime isn't taking something that doesn't belong to you. It's simply letting go of what does. My phone buzzed one last time with a message from Marcus. "I hope you're happy with yourself." I looked around my peaceful apartment at the life I'd built from the ashes of his betrayal and typed back, "I am. Thank you for asking." Then I turned back to my novel, ready to write my own story on my own terms in my own home. After all, isn't that what happy endings are really about? Some people might call what I did revenge. I prefer to think of it as poetic justice, served without legal hassles, just as Marcus wanted. Sometimes the best plot twists are the ones we write for ourselves. "I used your kids' savings to buy my dream home." Amanda's voice rang through my phone speaker, dripping with smug satisfaction. "They don't need college anyway. I mean, look how well I turned out without it." I gripped my coffee mug tighter, watching my 2 children through the kitchen window as they played in the backyard. 10-year-old Emma was helping her 7-year-old brother Lucas build what looked like a rocket ship out of cardboard boxes. Both of them were already dreaming about their futures. Emma wanted to be an aerospace engineer. Lucas talked about becoming a doctor. "Interesting choice," I replied, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "Oh, come on, Marie. Don't be so uptight," Amanda laughed. "I saw an opportunity and I took it. The realtor said it was the last waterfront property available. I couldn't let it slip away just because you're hoarding all that money for some far-off future." My name is Marie Chen, and at 35, I just discovered my sister-in-law had somehow accessed the college fund accounts I'd been building for my children since they were born. These weren't just savings accounts, they represented every extra shift I'd worked as a nurse, every bonus I'd saved, every sacrifice I'd made to ensure my kids would have the opportunities I never had. "Besides," Amanda continued, clearly enjoying herself, "I'm doing you a favor. Now you won't have to worry about all that boring college planning. The kids can just work their way up like I did. I mean, look at me, high school diploma, and now I'm about to own a mansion." What Amanda didn't know, what she hadn't bothered to find out before her little power play, was that I hadn't built those college funds alone. My late husband, James, had been equally committed to our children's future. Before his death 3 years ago in a car accident, he'd made sure there were ironclad protections in place. "The movers are coming tomorrow," Amanda announced cheerfully. I can't wait to post photos of my new life. Maybe I'll let the kids visit sometimes, show them how their aunt lives in luxury while their mom penny pinches for some overpriced education. I watched Emma help Lucas attach wings to their cardboard rocket. They were so much like their father, creative, determined, always dreaming big. James would have been proud of them. He also would have been livid at his sister's betrayal. When did you make the transfer? I asked, my tone casual as I opened my laptop. Last week. Can you believe how fast everything moved? The realtor said it was the smoothest cash transaction she ever handled. Though honestly, those bank people were kind of weird about it. So many questions, but I handled it like a boss. I pulled up my email and quickly found what I was looking for. An alert from our family lawyer that I'd been saving for this exact moment. And you're moving in tomorrow? Yep. The truck's all loaded. I'm going to do a final walkthrough of the mansion this afternoon. 4,700 square feet, Marie. That's what real money can buy when you're not wasting it on books and lectures. I thought about the conversation I'd had with our lawyer 6 months ago, when he'd noticed some suspicious inquiries about the children's accounts. James had always said his sister was opportunistic, prone to taking shortcuts. He'd made sure to protect our children from exactly this kind of situation. Well, Amanda, I hope you didn't pack too much, I said, finally allowing a hint of steel to enter my voice. What's that supposed to mean? The smugness in her tone wavered slightly. Check your email, the one you used for the property purchase. It should have arrived about, I glanced at my watch, 5 minutes ago. The line went quiet except for the sound of Amanda's fingernails clicking on her phone screen. Then I heard her sharp intake of breath. This has to be a joke, she stammered. Property transfer void? Funds returned due to fraudulent access? What did you do? I didn't do anything, Amanda. James did. Years ago. Those college funds. They're in an educational trust. Any attempt to use them for non-educational purposes triggers automatic legal intervention. The money's already been returned to the trust accounts. But I already signed the papers. The house is mine. You signed papers using money you obtained fraudulently. The trust's lawyers have already contacted the real estate company. Check your next email. It should be from them, voiding the sale. You can't do this to me. Amanda's voice rose to a shriek. I already told everyone about my new house. I posted it on Instagram. Then I guess you'll have to post an update, I replied calmly. Maybe something about the importance of reading legal documents before trying to steal from your niece and nephew. Mom. Emma called from the backyard. Come look at our rocket. We made room for all our books when we go to Mars University. I have to go, I told Amanda. My future aerospace engineer needs me. This isn't over, Amanda hissed. I'll find a way to fight this. You can't just. I ended the call and stepped out into the backyard. Emma and Lucas had painted stars all over their cardboard rocket, and a carefully lettered sign read, Mars University Express. It's perfect, I said, hugging them both. Your dad would have loved it. My phone kept buzzing with incoming texts from Amanda, each one more desperate than the last. I silenced it without reading them. The trust's lawyers would handle everything. James had made sure of that. Our children's future was secure, protected by a father's love and foresight, even if he couldn't be here to see it himself. As I helped Emma and Lucas find more boxes to build their space university, I couldn't help but smile. Amanda had always underestimated our family, always thought she could outsmart everyone else. But she'd never understood what James and I knew from the start, that the best investments aren't in mansions or luxury, but in the dreams we build for our children. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Amanda wouldn't give up easily, she never did. But for now, I was content watching my children reach for the stars, knowing their father had made sure nothing could hold them back. The next morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls and a flood of text messages from both Amanda and my mother-in-law, Patricia. I was making breakfast for the kids when the doorbell rang, its cheerful chime somehow managing to sound angry. Mom? Emma looked up from her cereal. Is that Aunt Amanda? She keeps posting weird stuff on Facebook about us. I squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. Finish your breakfast, sweetie. I'll handle this. Sure enough, Amanda stood on my porch, still wearing yesterday's clothes, her perfectly styled hair now a mess. Behind her, Patricia's Mercedes was parked crookedly in my driveway. How dare you humiliate your sister like this? Patricia burst out before I could even speak. Do you know how embarrassing it was for her to explain to the realtor that the sale fell through? I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. More or less embarrassing than stealing from her niece and nephew's college fund. She didn't steal anything. Patricia snapped. She was simply redistributing family resources. Those children don't need two massive college funds. It's excessive. Two? I hadn't meant to engage, but curiosity got the better of me. Amanda's face flushed. Well, since you're being so difficult about the first account, I thought I'd try the backup fund James mentioned before he died. But those stuck-up lawyers won't even tell me where it is. I felt a surge of gratitude for my late husband's foresight. James had always said his sister would try something like this one day. The second fund was locked away even more securely, a surprise for the kids' graduation day. You need to fix this, Amanda demanded. Call off the lawyers. Tell them I had permission to use the money. That's not happening, I replied firmly. Those funds are for the children's education. Nothing else. Education. Patricia threw her hands up. James would have wanted his sister to have a beautiful home. Family comes first. Yes, I agreed quietly. Family does come first. That's why James set up those trusts, to protect his children's future. Oh please, Amanda scoffed. James was just being controlling, like always. He knew I was better with money than him. I could have turned those college funds into a real estate empire. I heard small footsteps behind me and turned to see Lucas in the doorway. His space robot pajamas rumpled from sleep. Daddy wasn't controlling, he said, his young voice firm. He was smart, he told me so. Amanda's expression softened into something calculating. Oh, sweetie, she cooed, don't you want your Auntie Amanda to have a nice house where you can come visit? We could have a pool, and… No, Emma appeared beside her brother, her face a mirror of James's when he was angry. Those are our Space University funds, Dad promised. Patricia stepped forward, her designer purse swinging. Now, children, you don't understand adult matters. Sometimes plans need to change. Your aunt needs. I think we're done here, I interrupted, ushering my children back inside. The trust lawyers will be in touch about the attempted fraud. I suggest you both leave before they add harassment to the list of charges. Fraud? Amanda's face went pale. You wouldn't dare. I'm family. Exactly, I replied. Your family. You tried to steal from your own niece and nephew. Think about that. I closed the door on their protests and turned to find both children watching me. Emma's face was thoughtful, while Lucas clutched his favorite book about space doctors. Mom, Emma asked, is Aunt Amanda going to jail? I sat down on the stairs, patting the space beside me. They both curled up close, seeking reassurance. No, honey. But she did something wrong, and there are consequences for that. Like when I took an extra cookie and had to skip dessert. Lucas asked. Something like that, I smiled, ruffling his hair. But much bigger. Through the window, I could see Amanda and Patricia still arguing in the driveway. My phone buzzed with a text from the trust's lawyer. FYI, she's now trying to claim verbal permission from James. We have his recorded statements specifically prohibiting this. Do you want to proceed with charges? I thought about James, about all our late-night conversations planning for our children's future. He'd known his family well, their patterns, their sense of entitlement. The trusts weren't just about money. They were about protecting our children from exactly this kind of manipulation. Did Dad know Aunt Amanda would do this? Emma asked, always perceptive. He suspected she might try, I admitted. That's why he worked so hard to protect your future. Like a superhero, Lucas exclaimed. A secret superhero who saves college. A car door slammed outside. Through the window, I watched Patricia's Mercedes pull away, Amanda in the passenger seat. My phone immediately lit up with a message from Patricia. This isn't over. Family meeting tonight at our house. Be there or else. I replied with a simple, no thank you, and blocked both their numbers. The trust lawyers had been clear. All communication should go through them now. Emma leaned against me, her voice quiet. Mom, are we still going to be able to go to college? Absolutely, I assured her. Your dad made sure of that. No one can touch those funds except for your education. And Mars University? Lucas asked anxiously. If you get accepted to Mars University, the funds will be there, I promised, hugging them both. Later that evening, after the kids were in bed, I sat in James' old office, looking through the family photos he kept on his desk. There was one of Amanda at his college graduation, looking bored and resentful. She dropped out after one semester, claiming college was a waste of time. James had tried to help her over the years, offering to pay for her to go back to school. But she always wanted quick fixes, easy money. My phone lit up with an email from the trust's lawyer, updating me on the situation. Amanda's failed attempt to access the funds had triggered an investigation into her other financial dealings. The preliminary findings weren't pretty: unpaid taxes, questionable loans, a pattern of manipulating family members for money. "Your husband was right," the lawyer wrote. "She would have burned through those college funds in months. The protections he put in place worked exactly as intended. The kid's future is secure." I picked up my favorite photo of James with the children, taken at Emma's 7th birthday. He was helping her build a model rocket, while Lucas, just 4 at the time, watched in awe. James had always said our children could reach any height, achieve any dream, as long as we gave them a strong foundation to build on. Amanda and Patricia might never understand that. To them, money was about immediate gratification, about status and showing off. They couldn't see that James's real legacy wasn't about dollars in an account. It was about believing in our children's potential, about giving them the tools to build their own futures. Outside, the night was clear, stars twinkling above our modest home. Somewhere up there, past all those stars, was Mars, where Emma dreamed of building cities and Lucas dreamed of healing space explorers. Their father had made sure those dreams had a chance to grow, protected from those who couldn't see beyond their own desires. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Patricia's or else threat would materialize in some form, and Amanda wouldn't give up easily. But tonight, I was grateful for James's wisdom, for his love that reached beyond time to protect our children's dreams. 3 months after Amanda's failed attempt to steal the college funds, I sat in my lawyer's office reviewing the final settlement agreement. The investigation into Amanda's finances had revealed even more than we'd expected. She'd been forging Patricia's signature on loans, convincing distant relatives to invest in non-existent businesses, and running up massive debts in pursuit of her luxury lifestyle. The trust protections didn't just save your children's education, Mr. Sullivan explained, sliding the papers across his desk. They expose years of financial fraud. Several other family members have come forward about money she took from them. I thought about the family meeting Patricia had tried to force. It had happened without me, turning into a shouting match when other relatives realized the extent of Amanda's deceptions. My brother-in-law Tom called afterward, apologizing for doubting me. "James always said she was dangerous with money," he admitted. "I should have listened." The settlement was straightforward. Amanda would repay her victims over time, attend financial counseling, and most importantly, have no access to any family funds in the future. Patricia, faced with evidence of her daughter's actions, had finally stopped enabling her. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma's teacher. "Space project presentation today. Emma's rocket design is incredible." I smiled, remembering the cardboard prototype still standing in our garage. Emma had upgraded it with real calculations about fuel efficiency and atmospheric drag. Lucas had contributed by designing a space hospital inside, complete with zero-gravity operating rooms. "One more thing," Mr. Sullivan said as I signed the papers. "We found this in James's old files. He asked that it be given to you if Amanda ever tried to access the trusts." He handed me an envelope sealed with James's familiar scrawl across the front. "For Marie, when Amanda shows her true colors." Inside was a letter, written in James's warm, thoughtful style. "My dear Marie, if you're reading this, it means Amanda finally tried to take what isn't hers. I'm sorry you had to deal with this, but I never doubted you'd protect our children's future. Amanda always thought I was too cautious, too focused on planning ahead. She never understood that true wealth isn't about mansions or status. It's about giving our children wings to fly and roots to come home to. The second trust fund I set up, it's not just for college. I've arranged for it to cover any educational dream our children pursue, whether it's Emma building rockets or Lucas healing people among the stars. They can reach for anything, knowing they have a foundation to build on. Tell them their daddy believed in their dreams, even the ones that seem as distant as Mars. All my love, James." That evening, I watched Emma present her rocket design to her class. She stood tall, explaining thrust vectors and orbital mechanics with the same passion James had shown for building things. Lucas sat in the front row, bursting with pride at his big sister's work. And this, Emma concluded, pointing to her diagram, is how we'll get to Mars University. The class erupted in applause. Her teacher pulled me aside afterward. She's got a real gift for engineering, and such determination. She gets that from her father, I said softly. At home, I found a final email from Patricia waiting. I was wrong. James knew exactly what he was doing, protecting them from us. I'm sorry. I tucked James's letter into the family album, next to the photo of him building rockets with Emma. Amanda's betrayal had hurt, but it had also proved something important. That love, wisdom, and careful planning could protect dreams across time through any storm. The kids were in the backyard, upgrading their cardboard rocket with solar panels made from aluminum foil. Their dreams were safe, their future secure, protected by a father who'd seen clearly and planned wisely. Mom, Lucas called. We made room for a whole medical library in the rocket. Want to see? I stepped outside into the warm evening air. Above us, Mars glowed red against the darkening sky. Distant, but not impossible. Just like James had always said. Show me everything, I replied, ready to dream with them.